All right, guys, we're back with MMA Talking Heads, Jason Probst and Loretta Hunt. MMA journalists talking, gossiping.
Is that what we're doing?
I think we're talking. I think if we were in like 8th grade, I would like write on your folder and say, I don't know how I feel about this merger, except that there wouldn't be MMA around then, and we'd probably be like talking about like, I don't know, boxing or roller derby or something. Anyway, off that, back on the freeway, Loretta Hunt, you were there. You were there at Strike Force, and
I
somebody
was.
that's covered entertainers, but you were there as a fan. You weren't in press row.
Yeah, I mean, I did get my first Sports Illustrated story down
Right.
there. So
But you weren't credentialed for the event, which is
was not.
right. You weren't one of the cool kids. You know what's up? What's up with that?
Well, obviously it's a long-standing story. Some of the mixed martial arts media, myself included, Josh Gross from ESPN.com, the whole Sherdog staff, and I'm sure there's other people as well. Other outlets did contact me and let me know they weren't credentialed as well, and had been in the past. With Zuffa's acquisition of Strikeforce, they've decided that it's business as usual for them, especially with the MMA media, that they don't allow at their UFC events. Now they're not going to be allowed at Strikeforce events. So this was actually my first time that I was going to be writing for CBS Sports. So I applied for a credential through them and was turned down. Obviously, the irony of that, CBS Sports / CBS, which is a sister company of Showtime, which now has a relationship with the UFC / Strikeforce. So, it was.
We almost need to bust out like a PowerPoint to explain that. That is so like, isn't that just corporate America in the modern world? Like, everyone owns everyone else. But keep going. So basically, they denied somebody from their own company, right?
Yeah, I was turned down for credentials through CBS Sports.
Did that hurt you? Was your inner child wounded? Was there like a dialogue?
No, I don't know if my inner child was wounded, but did it hurt me? Yeah, sure.
Yeah.
I was. That was my first assignment for CBS Sports.
Right.
I had worked with one of the editors, producers over there who does the NFL and also had done MMA in the past. His name's Denny Burkholder. He's a big fan of mixed martial arts, and CBS Sports, I'm told, hasn't really covered MMA for the last year or so. For various reasons, I'm told, because they've had some difficulty with getting interviews and things like that in the past. So they kind of cooled off from it, and then they were coming back in. This was the first show that they were going to do in quite some time. They'd brought me in and assigned me, and then we were turned down. So CBS Sports decided that they just weren't going to do any coverage at all of the UFC. They don't want to be told who they can send to their events and who they shouldn't send to their events representing them. So I'm
dropped
really
the hammer back then, basically.
Yeah, I'm really great. I mean, I'm sad that this door closed. I mean, a door really did close. CBS Sports is probably not going to look at MMA now for at least a little while. So,
okay, but let's go back to the thing. This part I don't understand.
Yeah.
CBS Sports had trouble getting interviews with UFC fighters. I mean, some areas you get a hold, some or not get a hold. But I mean, how does that happen? Because I've usually been able to get hold of guys when I need them. I mean, what's the deal with that?
Oh yeah, no, I don't want to speak out of turn. I had some conversation with CBS Sports a little bit. They just hadn't really covered mixed martial arts so much because because I like I said, I don't want to speak out of turn, but I
Right.
definitely get the indication that when they were running the Elite XC events on CBS, which was a competitor of
Very much so.
the
Emphasis
UFC.
on was.
Yeah, it was. And, I think, some of the access that they wanted to get, interviewing certain people and stuff was difficult for them. They'd felt some kind of restriction, so they had kind of backed away from it. And this was them kind of dipping their toe back in the water again. And, again, something like this happens again, and it just reinforces, the UFC and their take on the mixed martial arts media and them trying to decide, who they want to send and who they don't want to send. And, there's no secret that there's some kind of vendetta against me. I'm not welcome at the UFC shows. I haven't been for some time. I've been in and out of this media ban since October 2005 when it started, but I'm obviously not welcome at the events. I probably for any outlet I work for, I'm with Sports Illustrated now, and I assume if I apply for a credential with SI, I'm not going to be allowed in either. But the bigger picture here, it's not just about me. There's other people involved too. There's other media that's not allowed in. It's the UFC's decision that they're going to do this because from everything I've been told, this doesn't happen in other sports. Journalists are granted credentials if they work for a reliable media outlet and are responsible reporters. I don't think it's been proven that any of us on this banned restricted list were ever irresponsible in our reporting. We haven't been. So, that's the bigger picture with the media ban for people that are kind of stepping into this and seeing this for the first time.
Well, touching on that, and it was pretty timely. If you're not an NBA fan, Mark Cuban is the owner of the Dallas Mavericks. Guy's a billionaire. He's kind of an out-of-the-box billionaire, very outspoken. And he keeps a blog, Mark Cuban's blog, and he posted about a week ago, right while I believe this ban kind of kicked in with the media credentialing with last weekend's Strikeforce event, is that he posted about sort of this pretty long thing about how he didn't like online media and he didn't like their presence in the locker room and that they were kind of the TMZ of sports reporting. And, it was a really interesting take from Cuban, who's a guy, he's a very visible NBA owner. And he's talking about, these online people are ruining it, which is an interesting contrast with mixed martial arts. It's a sport that, there's no such thing as a mixed martial arts fan that is not internet savvy. It's pretty hard to be. You might subscribe to some magazines a few years ago, but it's by its very nature, you're a web person.
I'd agree with that, yeah.
Absolutely. It's like you couldn't say the same for basketball, baseball, and, and yet Cuban seems like he has this big mess on his hands in this blog entry, but he's kind of deluged by these internet writers, both paid and unpaid, and he says they kind of really bring down the whole quality of journalism. And I thought in his article, I didn't agree with the tone of it. I thought he did have some points about kind of maybe the mob mentality of journalism in the world we live in. It's ruled by hits, and web traffic. Web traffic generates revenue. And a lot of the time, I would say that, including MMA sites, whether they're legit news or not, there's a definite tendency to, go for the shocking and the sensational or irresponsible reporting that so-and-so says, and we're just bringing this to you even though we haven't verified our own. I think there's a ton of laziness out there. But that said, on the flip side, while, the UFC's free to do whatever they want, I think the irony is that in our situation, we're the people that covered the sport when you couldn't get anybody else to touch it. Now, that doesn't mean we get a free prize for life. I'm not saying
yeah,
that.
no, we don't have a free pass. I actually, Mark Cuban's article, which, by the way, we should reference where you can find it. It's at blogmaverick.com. It's a long one. He basically breaks down, let's look at all the press, newspaper, internet reporters, and then he breaks down internet reporters between paid and unpaid. He has his opinions on all of that. But basically, he starts off this piece by saying, I think we finally reached the point where I don't need the media anymore. I've got everything I need to get the messages I want to get out about my players. I assume he's talking about Twitter, Facebook, all the other social media. Obviously you can put your own videos up on YouTube, whatever you want to do as long as you have the money to do so. So he's saying I don't need the media to do all this stuff, which, obviously raises the red flag for me. I'm going through something in my sport where I can't get credentialed to a show, and now I've got someone in the basketball world,
right?
A guy who has a very large platform and a very loud voice in his sport,
and a very large ego. He's an outspoken guy.
Yeah, absolutely. I have him saying not only, I don't think I need the media anymore to get out the messages that I want to get out, but then he goes on to Twitter the next day and commends the UFC for what they're doing. He said, who has the best media strategy in sports? Dana White, UFC bar none. UFC is killing it. Just might be the model for sports teams to follow. ...